The Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, joins us now. A very good morning to you, Home Secretary. I know that you want to talk about the safety of our children online, and we will get to that in just a moment. But before that, I want to talk to you about an interview that we did with Chris Packham just within the last hour. He said that the rolling back of the government's commitments on net zero could have dire consequences for protest. Let's have a look.
Look, has Rishi Sunak done the right thing today? We're reining in on our net zero commitments. The UK should be a world leader. We have the capability to see opportunities when it comes to addressing climate breakdown, not just problems. Investment in those sorts of industries. We're heading in completely the wrong direction.
Now, he said that this could mean that protesters will take their actions much further, that this could be seen as an incitement to violence. What's your reaction?
Well, I disagree with that totally. We are committed and we remain committed to delivering our net zero obligations and goals by 2050, in line with our international agreements.
What do you say to him and to Channel 4, which is broadcasting his polemic tonight, this evening? There are those who have seen excerpts from it who are saying that it amounts to an incitement to violence, because it's not just that Mr Packham reports this will be the knock-on effect of this apparent rollback from your green policies. He's saying that he actually endorses it. He doesn't condemn it.
That's incredibly irresponsible and reckless, is what I would say. I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved over the last 10 years when it comes to the environment. We've halved carbon emissions, we've quadrupled the output from renewable energy sources, and the UK is seen as a global leader in this regard. But it's also right that we take a pragmatic approach, and ultimately we're not going to save the planet by bankrupting the British people. So
why did you say, I mean, Michael Gove, speaking on behalf of the government, said only in July this year he was challenged directly on Times Radio and asked if this policy of banning the sale of new diesels and new petrols really would go ahead in 2030, and he said absolutely, without question, it will. What's happened?
Well, the Prime Minister will be setting out more detail in the next few days. It's not my job as Home Secretary to preempt or preview what he's going to say. But what I do support is his approach of pragmatism and proportionality. We always have to take an approach which puts the economy first, which puts household budgets first, which puts the cost of living first. And ultimately, that's the only way that we'll achieve these goals in a sustainable way.
You went too far too fast, didn't you?
Sorry?
You went too far too fast, didn't you?
Well,
you
listen,
promised what you couldn't deliver.
The Prime Minister is taking decisions in the long-term and sustainable interest of the country and of the planet. It's right that we do this in a measured way, and he'll be setting out the detail. I'm very, very proud of what we've achieved. I'm proud that the UK is viewed as a world leader, and I totally refute what Chris Packham and organisations like Just Stop Oil stand for. They take a militant, aggressive, and what you seem to be suggesting now, a violent approach to prosecuting their cause.
No. Let's make it clear.
Unacceptable.
Chris Packham is not endorsing violence. Let's just make that absolutely clear. His programme has in it people, for instance, a writer who says how to blow up a pipeline, and Chris Packham made the warning on this programme that your rolling back on commitments could lead to more aggressive action. Now, if we set that aside, what the effect might be on the protesters, the fact of the matter is you are rolling back on measures to protect the climate. I mean, you know, Richard says you've gone too far too fast. People will say you're not going far enough, fast enough. It's totally confused, your message on the climate. At one stage, you seem to be introducing measures which would protect it, and now you're completely rolling back. I mean, you're doing exactly what you accuse the opposition of. You're doing a U-turn, and climate campaigners say it will be disastrous.
Well, also, let's not preempt what the Prime Minister is going to set out in some detail in the next few days. But what I very much support is our goal for net zero in the long term, but in a sustainable and cost-effective way. I think that most people, most of your viewers would agree with that. We don't want to impose punitive burdens, punitive costs on householders, on workers, on people trying to go about their daily lives. That's not a mature or sensible way of achieving any kind of goal. And we can't put arbitrary targets ahead of national economic well-being.
Well, just so you take away with clarity what Mr Packham has said, on the actual documentary tonight on Channel 4, he says that he, quote, "I have to raise my voice." He's talking about breaking the law in support of changes to climate change policies. He said, "I have to give my support to those people so long as nobody's hurt. I've reached a point where I now consider it ethically the reasonable thing to do." So there you are. You've got a mainstream television presenter and an environmental protester who is saying that he does not withdraw his support from that kind of action. But we'll leave that point there.
Well, can I just say, I do think that's a very irresponsible approach. These protesters have adopted militant and aggressive tactics. They've caused traffic jams. They've stopped ambulances getting to patients. They've stopped people getting to work, to college. They've caused severe disruption. I'm very glad that I've introduced new legislation that has empowered the police to take swifter action, and we are seeing them able to disrupt these selfish protesters, these militant extremists in a better way. And it's totally unacceptable when they are doing their cause untold harm.
OK.
I think in response, the climate campaigners would say the climate catastrophe means that we will see, for instance, more immigration, more people having to leave disastrous situations which are triggered by the climate catastrophe and come over to our shores, which would create another problem for you as Home Secretary. But I want to just, before we let you go, because I know you have to go, you've asked Meta, Facebook, not to roll out end-to-end encryption on its platforms because children could be at risk from predators. What powers have you put into the online safety bill in order to stop them doing that?
Can I just set out the scale of the crisis? Because what Meta is proposing will have a devastating impact on child safety. We know that online paedophiles choose Facebook Messenger and Instagram Direct to carry out their sick and criminal behaviour. They groom children, they manipulate them, and they coerce them into performing sexual, pornographic, indecent acts. They film them, they share that material online to feed their depraved interests. And at the moment, we are arresting about 800 perpetrators a month, and we're safeguarding about 1,200 children a month, thanks to the lawful access that we have. What Meta is proposing is devastating. It will effectively allow these paedophiles to operate with impunity.
Yes, and we've got an online safety bill that's just been passed. So what is in it which will stop Meta doing that? Well,
it will make Facebook and Instagram Direct a safe haven for them to operate, as I say, without law enforcement access. We've just passed landmark legislation in the form of the online safety bill.
And what have you done to stop Meta doing this?
We have now extensive powers which we can use to direct companies, social media companies, to take necessary steps to remove indecent material, to roll out technology to safeguard children. And if they don't...
Can you prosecute the bosses of Meta?
There is potential criminal liability on the bosses, yes. And if they don't carry out these directions, we can issue very heavy fines and financial penalties on them, 10% of global revenue, for example. So these are landmark changes that we're making. We have aimed to make the UK the safest place to be online. But I prefer to work constructively with these companies. I value the presence of these companies. I support encryption. I support privacy. I support innovation. A technological solution exists. I'm asking Meta to do the right thing in the interests of child safety, to work with us and roll out this technology so that children are safe, but also they can carry out their commercial activities.
It's the old tension, isn't it, between freedom of speech and the rights of privacy and social responsibility. It's quite a balancing act. We would love to have spoken to you about it more, actually, because it's a fascinating subject, but the breaking news story today did push it a little bit to the back burner. But thank you for your time on that, Home Secretary. Good to have you on the programme.